breaking moment wasn't his reaction, it was everyone else's. I expected awkward smiles, maybe a few laughs, but instead his best friend stood up and pushed his chair back, like he couldn't sit through it. Then his mom, who'd always been warm to me, looked down at her plate and didn't touch her food again. My boyfriend didn't argue. He calmly pulled out his phone and opened a group chat titled Apartment Move Out, created 2 days earlier, with his brother and a cousin. I realized he'd been preparing for this kind of moment, not because he was paranoid, but because he'd been seeing a pattern I refused to admit. And when I reached for his hand, he moved it away like it wasn't mine to hold anymore. But let me back up. My name is Elena Leclair, and 3 hours earlier, I thought I was being charming. Simon's family dinner was supposed to be simple. His mom Linda always made too much food, his brother Ben brought his kids, and everyone pretended to care about my administrative assistant job at the insurance company. It was comfortable, predictable, boring. Just like Simon himself, if I'm being honest. "Elena, honey, could you pass the potatoes?" Linda asked, her voice warm like always. She'd been nothing but welcoming since Simon and I started dating 2 years ago. I smiled and reached across the table, catching Jax's eye as I did. Geordie, Jax Halperin, had been Simon's friend since college, and he always made these family dinners more interesting. Where Simon was methodical and quiet, Jax was spontaneous and magnetic. He had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the room. "So, Elena," Ben said, cutting into his roast beef, "Simon tells me you two are talking about moving to a bigger place." I felt Simon tense beside me. We'd had that conversation exactly once, and I'd been non-committal. The truth was, I wasn't sure about anything long-term with Simon. He was safe, reliable, paid his bills on time, remembered birthdays. But safe felt suffocating sometimes. "Oh, we're still figuring things out," I said, then added with a laugh. "I mean, I'm keeping my options open. Simon's not the only fish in the sea, right?" The words came out lighter than I intended, but I meant them as a joke. Sort of. I glanced at Jax, who raised his eyebrows with an amused smirk. The silence that followed felt like someone had sucked all the air out of the room. Linda's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Ben cleared his throat and looked at his 8-year-old daughter Ellie, who was obliviously pushing peas around her plate. 5-year-old Max was building a tower with his mashed potatoes. "That's an interesting way to put it," Linda said finally, setting down her fork entirely. Simon's face had gone completely blank, which was somehow worse than if he'd gotten angry. He did this thing when he was processing something painful. His expression would just shut down completely, like he was running calculations in his head. "I'm just kidding," I said quickly, but the damage was already spreading. "You know I don't mean it like that." But Jax leaned back in his chair, still smiling. "Hey, she's not wrong. Smart to keep your options open, right, Elena?" The way he said my name, with that slight emphasis, made my stomach flutter in a way that Simon never managed anymore. And that flutter must have shown on my face, because Ben suddenly stood up. "I think we should probably head out," Ben announced, even though we hadn't even had dessert yet. "Kids have school tomorrow." "But Dad, I didn't finish my tower," Max protested. "We'll build a better one at home, buddy." Ben was already reaching for Ellie's jacket. "Thanks for dinner, Mom." Linda nodded, but she wasn't looking at anyone, just staring at her untouched plate. "Ben, you don't have to," Simon started. "It's fine." Ben cut him off, but his tone suggested it really wasn't. "We'll talk later." As Ben ushered his kids toward the door, I caught him whispering something to Simon. I couldn't hear what, but Simon nodded grimly. Jack stretched and checked his phone. "Yeah, I should probably take off too. Got an early meeting tomorrow." He stood and clapped Simon on the shoulder. "Good dinner, Mrs. Dorsey. Always a pleasure." He winked at me as he passed behind my chair, and I felt that flutter again. God, what was wrong with me? After the front door closed, the dining room felt cavernous. Just me, Simon, and Linda, surrounded by half-empty plates and the lingering smell of roast beef. I should clean up, Linda said quietly, starting to stack plates. Mum, let me help, Simon began. I've got it. Her tone was polite but distant, nothing like her usual warmth. You two should probably talk. She disappeared into the kitchen with an armload of dishes, leaving Simon and me alone at the table. I could hear water running, the clink of plates being loaded into the dishwasher. Simon, I'm sorry. It was just a stupid joke. He was staring at his phone, scrolling through something. Without looking up, he turned the screen toward me. It was a group chat called Apartment Move Out. The participants were Simon, Ben, and someone named Mike, probably his cousin. The chat had been created 2 days ago. You made this before tonight, I said, my voice smaller than I intended. Yeah. Why? Simon finally looked at me, and his expression was completely calm. That scared me more than yelling would have. Because you've been pulling away for months, Elena. The late nights, the phone calls you take in the other room, the way you look at other guys when you think I'm not paying attention. He pocketed his phone. Tonight just confirmed what I already knew. That's not... You've been texting Jax. It wasn't a question. My heart started pounding. We're friends. You introduced us. I've seen the messages, Elena, the ones you think you deleted. The kitchen had gone quiet. Linda was probably listening to every word. I don't know what you think you saw. I saw enough. Simon stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. We'll figure out the apartment situation this week. He walked toward the kitchen, presumably to say goodbye to his mother. I sat there alone, staring at the remains of what had been, an hour ago, a perfectly normal family dinner. My phone buzzed. A text from Jax. That was intense. You okay? I typed back quickly. Fine, just family drama. Want to talk about it? I'm at Murphy's bar downtown. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the keyboard. Simon was in the kitchen, probably getting lectured by his mother about my behavior. His whole family had just walked out on me. But Jax was offering to listen, to be there for me. Give me 20 minutes, I typed back. I heard Simon's footsteps returning to the dining room. When he appeared in the doorway, I was already grabbing my purse. Where are you going? Out. I need some air. Elena. But I was already heading for the door. I needed space to think, to process what had just happened. And if Jax happened to provide that space, well, that wasn't really anyone's business but mine. The last thing I heard before the door closed was Linda's voice, quiet but clear. Let her go, honey. She's already made her choice. Murphy's bar was dimly lit and mostly empty on a Tuesday night. Jax was sitting in a corner booth, already nursing a beer and scrolling through his phone. When he saw me, he smiled that crooked smile that had been making my pulse race for months. There she is, he said, standing to give me a hug that lasted just a beat too long. Rough night? You could say that. I slid into the booth across from him, grateful for the warm lighting that hid how rattled I felt. I can't believe everyone reacted like that. It was just a joke. Jack signaled the bartender for another round. Hey, I thought it was funny. Shows you've got a sense of humor about things. Simon's always been too serious anyway. The way he said Simon's name, with just a hint of dismissiveness, should have bothered me more than it did. Instead, it felt validating. Someone understood that I needed more excitement, more spontaneity than Simon could offer. He thinks there's something going on between us, I said, accepting the wine the bartender brought over. Is there? Jax's eyes met mine over his beer bottle. It was a loaded question, and we both knew it. For the past 3 months, our text conversations had gotten increasingly flirtatious. Lunch meetings that ran long. Drinks after work when Simon thought I was with my friend Marlene. Nothing physical had happened yet, but the tension was undeniable. I don't know, I said honestly. Everything with Simon feels so predictable. He's a good guy, but good isn't enough sometimes. Jax reached across the table and covered my hand with his. You deserve someone who appreciates how amazing you are, Elena. Someone who makes you feel alive. His thumb traced across my knuckles, and I felt that familiar electric jolt. This was what had been missing with Simon, this sense of danger, of possibility. He made a group chat about moving out, I said, before tonight even happened. Smart guy, he knows he's losing you. The way Jack said it made it sound inevitable, like I'd already made my choice. Maybe I had, without even realizing it. We talked for another hour, his hand never leaving mine. He told me about his marketing job, his plans to start his own agency, the trip to Costa Rica he was planning. Everything sounded exciting, adventurous, nothing like Simon's careful 5-year plans and retirement savings discussions. When he walked me to my car, he kissed me. Soft at first, then deeper when I didn't pull away. It tasted like possibility and rebellion, and everything I'd been craving. I should go, I whispered against his lips. Should and want are different things, he murmured back. But I did go, driving home through empty streets with my heart pounding and my mind racing. What was I doing? Simon was a good man who loved me, and I was throwing it away for what? The excitement of something new. The apartment was dark when I got home. Simon was on the couch as promised, already asleep under the throw blanket his mother had knitted last Christmas. His phone was charging on the coffee table, and for a moment I was tempted to look through it to see what evidence he thought he had. Instead, I went to our bedroom, my bedroom now, apparently, and lay awake until dawn, replaying the kiss and wondering if I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The next few days passed in a strange, cold politeness. Simon went to work at his software engineering job, came home, made dinner for one, and spent his evenings on his laptop at the kitchen table. I noticed he'd changed all his passwords and started locking his phone, which he'd never done before. We need to talk about practical things, he said Friday morning over coffee. His tone was businesslike, detached. The lease is in both our names, but I can take it over solo if you want to find somewhere else. Maybe I don't want to leave. Then I'll find somewhere else. He shrugged like it didn't matter to him either way. Either way, we need to figure it out. I wanted to ask him to fight for us, to show some emotion, anything. But Simon had always been measured, logical. Even heartbreak looked like a spreadsheet with him. What about our friends? Our plans? What friends, Elena? You mean Jack's? His voice didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. You can have him. I'm done sharing. That afternoon, my friend Marlene called while I was at work. Girl, what is happening? Ben's wife just unfriended me on Facebook, and Linda hasn't responded to my text about book club. Marlene had been my closest friend since college, and she'd always encouraged me to live a little when I complained about Simon's predictability. She'd been the one to suggest I was too young to settle down, that I should explore my options. Things are complicated right now, I said, keeping my voice low in case my co-workers were listening. Complicated how? What happened at dinner? I gave her the abbreviated version, leaving out the part about Jack's and Murphy's bar. But Marlene read between the lines. Oh, honey, did you finally make a move on that friend of his? The hot one? It's not like that. It's exactly like that, and it's about time. Simon's a nice guy, but nice doesn't make your heart race, you know. You've been settling. Her words should have felt supportive, but instead they made me feel hollow. Was that really what I'd been doing? Settling. That weekend, Ben came by the apartment while I was there alone. Simon had gone to his mother's house, probably to strategize or vent or whatever men did when their relationships imploded. Hey, Elena, Ben said when I answered the door. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Simon's not here. I know. I came to get some of his things. He asked me to pick up some clothes and his toolbox. I let him in, watching as he moved efficiently through the apartment, gathering items. He knew exactly what to take, like Simon had given him a detailed list. Ben, can I ask you something? He paused, holding an armload of Simon's sweaters. Sure. Do you think I'm a terrible person? Ben was quiet for a long moment, and I could see him weighing his words carefully. I think you're unhappy, he said finally, and I think you're handling it in a way that's going to hurt a lot of people, including yourself. Simon and I just want different things. Simon wants you, Elena. That's all he's ever wanted, and if that's not enough for you, that's okay. But the way you're going about this... He shook his head. My kids were at that dinner. They heard what you said. Ellie asked me why you were being mean to Uncle Simon. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. I'd been so focused on my own feelings, my own needs, that I hadn't thought about how my words might affect an 8-year-old who adored her uncle. I didn't mean... I know you didn't, but that doesn't change the impact. Ben headed toward the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, I hope you figure out what you really want before you lose everything good in your life. After he left, I sat in the suddenly quiet apartment, surrounded by the gaps where Simon's things used to be. His favorite coffee mug was gone from the kitchen cabinet. His engineering textbooks had disappeared from the living room shelf. It was like he was systematically erasing himself from our shared space. My phone buzzed. A text from Jax. How was your weekend? Thinking about you. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. 3 months ago, a text like that would have thrilled me. Now it just felt complicated. Rough, I typed back. Simon's moving out. Sorry to hear that. Want some company? Did I? The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. And Jax made me feel wanted, desired, alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Come over, I typed before I could change my mind. He arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of wine and that easy smile that made everything else fade into the background. We talked, we laughed, we kissed on the couch where Simon had been sleeping. And when things progressed beyond kissing, I told myself this was what I wanted, what I deserved. But later, lying in the bed I'd shared with Simon for 2 years, listening to Jax breathe beside me, I felt more empty than fulfilled. Through the thin walls, I could hear my upstairs neighbor's TV, a late-night talk show with canned laughter that sounded hollow and strange. I reached for my phone to check the time and saw a notification. Simon had tagged me in a Facebook post, something he rarely did. My heart pounded as I opened it. It was a simple status update. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Grateful for family and real friends who have my back. New chapter starts now. The post already had dozens of likes and supportive comments. His co-workers, his family, mutual friends I'd thought were my friends too. All rallying around him, all implicitly understanding what had happened without him having to spell it out. I wasn't tagged as a person in the post. I was tagged as the trash. The first sign that my world was shrinking came at the downtown bistro where I usually grabbed lunch. Café Luna had been my regular spot for over a year. I knew the baristas by name, had a usual table by the window, always ordered the same quinoa salad. But when I walked in, Monday afternoon, the familiar warmth was gone. Hi, Elena, said Jessica, the barista who normally chatted with me about weekend plans and work drama. Today her smile was polite but distant. The usual? Please. I handed her my card, noticing she avoided eye contact. How was your weekend? Fine. She processed my payment quickly, efficiently, without the usual small talk. Your order will be ready in a few minutes. I found my usual table, but something felt off. The couple at the next table, I recognized them as regulars too, glanced over at me, then leaned in to whisper something to each other. The woman's eyes flicked back to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Curiosity, judgment, pity. My phone buzzed with a text from Marlene. Can we talk? Something weird is happening. Before I could respond, my salad arrived. Jessica set it down without her usual enjoy and hurried back to the counter. I ate quickly, feeling increasingly uncomfortable under the weight of glances and whispered conversations that seemed to be about me. Back at the insurance office, I tried to focus on processing claims and updating client files. but my concentration was shot. Around 3 o'clock, my supervisor, Rachel, stopped by my desk. "Elena, can I see you in my office for a minute?" My stomach dropped. Rachel was normally casual, friendly. Today she looked serious, almost concerned. I followed her into her glass-walled office, noting that several of my coworkers quickly looked away when I passed their desks. "Is everything okay?" Rachel asked once the door was closed. "You seem distracted lately." "I'm fine, just some personal stuff going on." "I see." Rachel sat on the edge of her desk rather than behind it, which somehow made this feel more serious, not less. "Look, I don't usually get involved in employees' personal lives, but I got a call this morning that I need to address." My blood went cold. "What kind of call?" "Someone called asking to verify your employment, said they were conducting a background check for a potential landlord." Rachel's expression was carefully neutral. But when I asked for details, they hung up. And then about an hour later, I got an email with, well, some photos of you, with someone who isn't Simon. The room felt like it was tilting. "Photos?" I deleted them immediately, of course. "But Elena, if someone is targeting you like this, you might want to consider whether there are other people who might receive similar messages." My mind raced. Who would do this? Who even had photos of Jax and me together? We'd been careful, or so I thought. Lunch dates, after-work drinks, nothing too public until Murphy's Bar. Last Tuesday night. Jax had posted a story on Instagram. I remembered him taking a selfie while we were talking. Had I been visible in the background? And then there was this weekend, when he'd come over to the apartment. Had someone seen him leave? "I appreciate you telling me," I managed to say, "and I'm sorry if this caused any problems. Just be careful, okay? And if you need to take some personal time to sort things out, we can arrange that." I nodded and escaped back to my desk, my hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. 3 missed calls from Marlene, 2 from my mother, and a string of text messages I didn't want to read. The first was from Marlene. "Girl, call me now. Someone sent screenshots to half our friend group." My mother. "Elena Leclair, what is this nonsense I'm hearing about you and Simon? Call me immediately." And then, most chilling of all, a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Thought you should know what people are saying about you. Check your email." With trembling fingers, I opened my email app. There it was, a message with no subject line, just a link to a private Instagram account I'd never seen before. The account name was Seattle Truth Teller, and the bio read, "Exposing cheaters and liars in our community." I clicked the link, and my heart stopped. The account had posted a series of photos and screenshots, all featuring me. Photos of Jax and me at Murphy's Bar, looking intimate and romantic. Screenshots of our text conversations. Flirtatious messages I thought were private. Even a photo of Jax leaving my apartment building early Sunday morning, timestamp clearly visible. The captions were brutal. "When you're playing house with your boyfriend, but shopping around for upgrades, Donnen cheetah, Bonner Seattle Cheater Chinkama." "Ladies, this is why you don't trust your man's friends around your girl. She belongs to the streets now." Update. Boyfriend found out and kicked her to the curb. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Each post had dozens of comments, and I recognized names, mutual friends, people from Simon's work, even some of my own co-workers. The comments ranged from shocked emoji to outright condemnation. "OMG, I know her. She seemed so sweet. Poor Simon, he's such a good guy." Trash took itself out. I always thought something was off about her. My phone rang. Marlene. "Elena, what the hell is happening? Everyone is talking about you. Lisa forwarded me these Instagram posts, and I don't even know what to say." "Someone is stalking me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Taking photos, sharing private messages. This is harassment." "Honey, I don't think you can call it harassment when you actually did these things." Marlene's voice was gentler than her words, but still firm. "I mean, You did cheat on Simon, right? You did meet up with his friend. It's not that simple. It kind of is, though. Look, I love you, and I've always supported you exploring your options. But this, I could hear her scrolling through something on her phone. This looks really bad, Elena, and it's everywhere. My sister in Portland just texted me asking if this is the same Elena she met at my birthday party. The scope of the humiliation was starting to hit me. This wasn't just local gossip. This was viral, spreading beyond our immediate circle to friends of friends, acquaintances, strangers. I need to figure out who's doing this, I said. Someone has access to my private messages, my location, or someone close to the situation is feeding them information. Marlene paused. Elena, have you considered that maybe Simon is behind this? The thought had crossed my mind, but I'd dismissed it. Simon wasn't vindictive or cruel. He was methodical, yes, but not malicious. Simon wouldn't do this. Wouldn't he? You humiliated him in front of his family, cheated on him with his best friend, and now he's getting sympathy and support while you're getting dragged online. Seems like pretty effective revenge to me. After hanging up with Marlene, I tried calling Jax. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Same thing. Finally, around 6 o'clock, he texted back. Can't talk right now. This situation is getting out of hand. Need some space to think. Space to think. After 3 months of pursuing me, of telling me I deserved better, of encouraging me to leave Simon, now he needed space. I drove home through Seattle traffic, my mind spinning with paranoia and humiliation. Every car that stayed behind me too long felt like surveillance. Every person who looked in my direction seemed to be judging me. The apartment felt like a crime scene when I walked in. Simon had taken more of his things. His desk was gone from the corner of the living room, along with his computer setup and gaming console. The kitchen was missing his coffee maker, his favorite spatula, the cast-iron pan his grandmother had given him, but he'd left something behind. On the counter, held down by a coffee mug I didn't recognize, was a printed email. The subject line read, "Documentation for legal purposes." My hands shook as I read, "Elena, attached. You will find copies of all relevant communications, photographs, and timeline documentation related to your extramarital relationship with Jordan Halperin. This information has been compiled for potential use in legal proceedings related to our shared lease, shared assets, and any future claims you might make regarding our relationship. Please note that all evidence was obtained through legal means. Recovery of deleted messages from cloud backups on shared devices, publicly available social media posts, and witness statements from individuals who observed your behavior. You will be hearing from my attorney regarding the apartment lease and division of shared property. Please direct all future communication through legal channels. Simon." Attached were printed screenshots of every text message Jax and I had exchanged, including ones I thought I'd deleted, photos I didn't even remember being taken, a detailed timeline of my whereabouts over the past 3 months, cross-referenced with credit card statements and social media posts. It was thorough, methodical, and devastating. And it was clearly the source material for whoever was running that Instagram account. But Simon hadn't posted this publicly himself. He'd compiled evidence for legal purposes, which was his right. Someone else had taken this information and weaponized it for maximum humiliation. My phone rang. My mother. "Elena, I just got off the phone with Linda Dorsey. She called to tell me she wouldn't be attending book club anymore because she couldn't bear to face me after what you did to her son." "Mom, how could you do this? Simon is a wonderful man. He loves you, he's stable, he's kind to me, he remembers my birthday. And you threw it all away for what? Some excitement?" Rita Leclair had always liked Simon more than I did, I sometimes thought. She'd grown up poor, married my father young, and valued security above all else. To her, Simon represented everything a woman should want in a partner. "You don't understand the whole situation," I said weakly. "I understand that you cheated on a good man, and now everyone knows about it. I understand that I can't show my face at the grocery store without people asking me about my daughter's behavior. I understand that you've embarrassed our entire family." She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in the empty apartment, surrounded by the ghosts of the life I'd dismantled, and tried to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. A week ago, I'd been unhappy but stable. Now I was unemployable, friendless, and apparently the subject of a targeted harassment campaign. My phone buzzed with a new message from the unknown number. "This is just the beginning. You haven't seen anything yet." Tuesday morning brought a new horror. The Instagram account had posted security footage of Jax and me kissing in the parking garage of my apartment building. The timestamp showed it was from 3 weeks ago, during one of our innocent lunch meetings that had turned into something more. The caption read, "For everyone asking for proof, here's your girl getting cozy while her man was at work. Stay classy, Seattle." The comments were even more vicious than before. "This is actually disgusting. How long was she lying to his face? I hope Simon sees this and realizes he dodged a bullet. Someone should warn all the men in Seattle about this one." I called in sick to work, unable to face the stares and whispers. Instead, I drove to Jax's apartment complex, determined to get some answers. If we were going down, we were going down together. Jax lived in a trendy building in Capitol Hill, with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. I'd only been there a few times, always carefully, always making sure no one saw me. Now I realized how naive that had been. I buzzed his apartment from the lobby. "Yeah?" His voice sounded tired, irritated. "It's Elena. We need to talk." A long pause. "I don't think that's a good idea right now." "Jax, someone is posting photos of us online. Security footage, private messages. We need to figure out who's doing this." Another pause, then the door buzzed open. His apartment was smaller than I remembered, and messier. Empty beer bottles on the coffee table, takeout containers on the kitchen counter. Jax himself looked like he hadn't slept, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. "This is a nightmare," he said without preamble. "My boss saw the posts. HR wants to meet with me this afternoon. Someone has been following us, taking photos. No, Elena. Someone we know is feeding information to whoever's running that account." He ran his hands through his hair. "Think about it. Those text messages were deleted from your phone, right? But they're not deleted from the cloud backup. And that security footage, someone had to request it from building management." The implication hit me like a cold wave. "You think Simon is behind this?" "I think Simon is a lot smarter and more connected than we gave him credit for." Jack started pacing his small living room. "He works in tech. He knows about data recovery, digital forensics, and he has friends who could help him. But posting it publicly like this, that's not like him." "Maybe he's not posting it himself. Maybe he's just providing the information to someone else. Someone who wants to see you destroyed." I thought about Linda's cold silence at dinner, Ben's disappointed expression, the way Simon's entire family had closed ranks against me. Any one of them could be behind the Instagram account. "We need to do damage control," I said. "Maybe if we explain..." "Explain what?" Jax's voice was sharp, frustrated. "That we fell in love, that we couldn't help ourselves, that we were going to tell everyone eventually." He laughed bitterly. "No one wants to hear that story, Elena. They want a villain, and you're it." "I'm it? What about you? You pursued me, remember? You're the one who told me I deserved better, that Simon was boring. And you're the one who was in a relationship." Jack stopped pacing and faced me. "I was single. I didn't owe Simon anything. But you made promises to him. You lived with him, met his family, let his niece and nephew get attached to you. I was just the guy you cheated with. You're the cheater." The words stung because they were true. In the narrative that was being written about us, Jax was the temptation, but I was the one who had chosen to give in. "So what? You're just going to abandon me. Let me take all the blame while you walk away." "I'm protecting myself. My job, my reputation, my future relationships. This will blow over eventually, but not if I keep being seen with you. I stared at him, this man I'd thought I was falling in love with, this person I'd blown up my life for. He looked like a stranger. You're a coward, I said quietly. Maybe, but I'm a smart coward. He moved toward the door, clearly wanting me to leave. Look, what we had was fun, but it was never supposed to be this complicated. I'm sorry it worked out this way, but I can't fix it for you. I left his apartment feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The man I'd thought would be my salvation, my escape from a boring, predictable life, had turned out to be exactly what Simon had probably always known he was: selfish, shallow, and ultimately unreliable. My phone rang as I was driving home. Marlene again. Elena, I have to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Did you know that Jax has a girlfriend? The car swerved slightly as the words hit me. What? I just got a call from my friend Casey. She works at that marketing firm downtown, same company as Jax. She said everyone there is talking about the Instagram posts, and his girlfriend is apparently devastated. They've been together for 8 months. 8 months. The same amount of time Jax had been flirting with me, pursuing me, telling me I deserved better than Simon. That can't be right, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I was remembering things. How Jax never wanted to go anywhere too public. How he was always careful about posting on social media. How he'd never invited me to his apartment until I'd shown up uninvited today. Casey said her name is Michelle, and she had no idea about you until these posts started circulating. Apparently, she's been getting tagged in them by people who know they're dating. I pulled over to the side of the road, my hands shaking too badly to drive safely. Not only had I destroyed my relationship with Simon, not only was I being publicly humiliated online, but I'd also been the other woman in someone else's relationship. I'd been exactly what I'd never wanted to be, a cheater who helped someone else cheat. Eleanor, are you still there? I'm here. My voice sounded hollow, distant. I'm sorry, honey. I know this is a lot. Marlene, I need to ask you something too. Have you been talking to anyone about me? About my situation? A pause. What do you mean? Someone is feeding information to whoever's running that Instagram account. Personal details, timeline stuff. It has to be someone who knows me well. Are you asking if I'm the one posting about you? Marlene's voice turned cold. Because that's insulting, Elena. I've been your friend for 10 years. I'm not accusing you. I'm just trying to figure out how this person knows so much. Maybe they know so much because you weren't as careful as you thought you were. Maybe because you confided in people, posted things online, left digital trails everywhere. Marlene sighed. Look, I love you, but you made a series of really bad choices. And now you're looking for someone to blame instead of taking responsibility. After she hung up, I sat in my car on the side of the road, watching traffic pass by, feeling like my entire life was disintegrating in real time. Every person I'd trusted had either abandoned me or turned against me. Every choice I'd made in the past 3 months had led to this moment of complete isolation. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Your father and I think you should come stay with us for a while, just until this all settles down. The idea of moving back in with my parents at 32, tail between my legs, was almost too humiliating to consider. But where else could I go? I couldn't afford the apartment on my own, especially if I lost my job. My friends were distancing themselves. My support system had evaporated. I drove home to find a car I didn't recognize parked in my usual spot. As I got closer, I realized it was Simon's car, but he wasn't alone. Ben was with him, and they were loading boxes into the trunk. They both looked up when I approached, their expressions guarded. We're just getting the rest of Simon's things, Ben said. We'll be out of your way in a few minutes. Simon? I tried to catch his eye, but he focused on the box he was carrying. Can we please talk? About all this? There's nothing to talk about. His voice was calm, matter of fact. Everything that needed to be said has been said. But this Instagram thing, this harassment, what about it? He finally looked at me, and his expression was completely neutral. Someone is sharing publicly available information about choices you made freely. You think I deserve this? To be humiliated like this? Simon set down the box and faced me fully. I think you made your choices, and now you're dealing with the consequences. I'm not responsible for protecting you from that. But you compiled all that evidence, those screenshots, for legal purposes, to protect myself and my assets. What other people do with publicly available information isn't my responsibility. Ben cleared his throat. We should go, Simon. Mum's expecting us for dinner. As they drove away, I realized that Simon hadn't denied being involved in the Instagram posts. He'd just said he wasn't responsible for what others did with the information. It was a careful, lawyerly distinction that told me everything I needed to know. That evening, alone in the apartment that no longer felt like home, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and started typing a long Facebook post, my attempt to control the narrative, to explain my side of the story. I know many of you have seen the posts circulating about me, and I want to address them directly. Yes, my relationship with Simon ended. Yes, I made mistakes. But what's happening to me now, the stalking, the harassment, the coordinated effort to destroy my reputation, is wrong. I'm a human being who made human mistakes, and I don't deserve to be treated like this. To whoever is behind these posts, you've made your point. Please stop. I posted it and waited for the supportive comments, the understanding, the sympathy I was sure would come from people who knew me, who had seen my character over the years. Instead, the comments were brutal. Playing the victim now, classic. Maybe don't cheat if you don't want people to know you're a cheater. No one is stalking you, they're just showing people who you really are. Simon dodged a bullet. Actions have consequences. Within an hour, the post had been shared dozens of times, each share accompanied by mocking commentary. I'd made things worse, not better. I deleted the post, but screenshots were already circulating. The Instagram account had posted one with the caption, "When you try to play victim, but everyone sees through it." That night, I called my mother and told her I'd be coming home for a while. It was either that or face complete social and financial ruin in a city where everyone now knew my name for all the wrong reasons. The legal papers arrived Thursday via process server, a petition for lease termination and asset recovery. Simon's evidence was meticulous, screenshots of deleted texts with Jax, time-stamped photos mapping our affair, witness statements, and worst, joint credit card records of meals, hotels, parking fees I'd charged while lying about late work. He'd documented everything for months, not out of spite, but precision. He wanted me off the lease in repayment for fraudulent use of shared resources. My estate planning lawyer friend Robert Chen reviewed it. Strong case. Settle or fight and lose expensively. I chose settlement. At my parents' house, Mom helped unpack into my childhood room. She asked if Jax was worth it. I was bored, selfish, stupid, I admitted. Simon had visited earlier, returning items, seeming concerned but sad, not angry. Mom said he wanted accountability, not destruction. Jax's girlfriend Michelle met me for coffee. We bonded over his manipulation. She'd ended things too. We both deserved better, she said. I emailed Simon a genuine apology, owning every betrayal. His reply, polite, final, lease transfer signed, clear out by month's end, packing 12 boxes that weekend, mugs from Portland, our birthday photo, throw pillows. Felt like boxing up the life I'd thrown away. Simon had moved on cleanly. I was left with regret, lessons, and a long road to rebuild. 3 weeks later, working a low-paying temp job filing insurance claims, I received a call from Detective Martinez at Seattle PD. Simon had filed a harassment complaint. Multiple drive-bys past his apartment, blocked number calls, third-party contacts, despite his clear request to stop. At the station, evidence stunned me. Security footage of my car, phone records, workplace emails. What felt like desperate attempts to apologize looked like stalking. A temporary restraining order was issued, prohibiting contact within 500 feet of Simon, his home, work, or family. At the hearing 2 weeks later, Simon testified calmly about changing routines to avoid me, the fear I'd caused. My explanations crumbled under cross-examination. The judge made the order permanent for 2 years. Simon's lawyer handed me his note. Kind words wishing me healing and growth, the final communication I'd ever received from him. 6 months on, in a Tacoma studio apartment, receptionist at a dental office, I attend therapy, confronting the insecurity that drove my affair and sabotage. Simon's LinkedIn shows promotion and quiet confidence. I've lost everything, but rock bottom offers a foundation, if I rebuild with honesty and self-awareness. The order expires in 18 months. By then, I hope to be someone worthy of the forgiveness I'll never receive.